begins to actually get custody of me. And then when I was 2 years old, he met my stepmom. And so I didn't know that she wasn't my real mother until I was around 11 or 12 when she told me. So, yeah, on my mother's side, extreme alcoholism. And I believe there's alcoholism on my dad's side, even though he didn't take it to the extremes that we did.
Mike Edens is my guest. He's a therapist at Powell CDC in the chemical dependency area. Two questions. Do you today have a relationship with your biological mother?
No, I finally had some success looking for her, only to find that she had died in 1998, I think it was. And so, and actually, when I found out where she lived all this time and where she died, it was, only an hour or so away from a prison that I was in at that time.
A prison you were in?
Yeah, in California.
Okay.
And so that was kind of, I've been looking for a long time, not looking hard, but when I finally sat down and started spending the time to find her, I found out she died the same year that I was just an hour away.
And how did that impact you?
Well, my dad told me even when I was younger that, you never know what you're going to find, Mike. He said she had problems and she might be deceased. She might be in jail. She might be doing wonderful. But he kind of prepared me long before. Be careful what your expectations are, because I have no idea what you're going to find. And so I guess when I found out that she was deceased, I kind of expected to not have any expectations. And so I was a little let down, though.
But it hurts.
Because I finally found her.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that. We shared a little bit of my story with you. I can relate to that. Did she die an addict?
I don't know.
Okay. How old would she have been?
That's a good question.
Born in probably 50, I would guess.
Yeah, my dad was born in 49, so she, I think she was a year or two older than him, so that'd be about right.
Oh, my 40. God, I'm old enough to be your mother. I was born in 49. Oh.
The other question I have is there any correlation between you finding out that your stepmother was in fact your stepmother and it was the age in which you started using?
No, I've thought a lot about all of the different pieces of the puzzle that can sometimes be part of somebody's story of addiction. And, obviously genetics, that could be part of it, but that doesn't explain it. And my parents divorcing, kind of splitting the family up, some brothers and sisters with my mom and me with my dad. I mean, none of us liked that, but the more I look back, those were all pieces of the story, but I don't think cause and effect. I just, you start using and you like the way it feels, and you start hanging out with those people, and you start
That's
going further and further.
That's a common age we hear on this program.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. 11, 12, 13. Now, I'm sorry. Talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. I missed something here. Your father fought for you, but there were other siblings that went with your mom?
Well, when my dad met my stepmom, I was 2.
Okay.
So as far back as I remember, she was my mom.
So this is the divorce between your mom and your stepmom and dad? Correct. Oh, okay. Correct. And how old were you when that happened?
I think I was about 11 or 12.
Same time?
Yeah.
Same time. So Daddy breaks down the news that not only am I divorcing this woman, but really she wasn't your mother anyway.
Well, actually, my stepmom told me one day she was just getting ready in the bathroom, and I don't know why she decided that day to tell me that I'm not really your mom. And I think I was around 12, maybe 11. But when my dad met her, she had 3 kids. So as far back as I can remember, I had 3 older siblings, and there was 4 of us. And then, of course, they had a couple more kids. So there was a family of 6 most of the time growing up. And
blended family.
Until they divorced, and I found out that, I'm from his first marriage. And but it was hard to split. Some of the kids went with her, and I went with my dad. So
do you, and I don't want to bring up bad memories for you. I appreciate you sharing today, but do you remember the emotion you had when your mother looked at you and said, "I'm not your real mom"? I mean, you remember she was in the bathroom. Obviously, you remember the moment. You remember the emotion? Was it confusion? Was it angry? Was it sad?
Not really. I was surprised, and I had a lot of questions for my dad. I wanted to know more about my real mother, my birth mother.
Bio mom.
But I really don't remember being angry, just curious.
Okay.
In fact, the mom that raised me, she's the one that, held me when I was sick. And her kids were my brothers and sisters. And so I kind of just accepted as, okay, that's just an extra fact, but she's still my mom.
You still have a relationship with her?
Absolutely.
Good.
She lives in Missouri.
Good. Well, we won't hold that against her. Mike Edens is, I'm sorry, I'm a Nebraska fan.
It's true.
So Mike Edens is my guest today. He's from Powell CDC. Lila Stafford is in the house from Powell, and also Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat. I'm J. Michael McKoy, and if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. This is a ministry. This is a project. You don't have to tie religion to it. I don't. Well, I guess I do, because I talk about my walk with Christ. But I don't mean to do that to offend you. That's just who I am, and I wear it on my sleeve. But I ask that you hopefully have found a greater power in your life. I hope you call that person God, and I hope he's the God of Abraham and Isaac. But if not, at least seek to find that greater power, because without that greater power, you have no place to turn. You have no cornerstone. You have nothing to find what your identity is. And that's what we do on this program, and help people with hurts, habits, and hangups.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists, to rehabilitation, to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
This is Dan Fry, host of A Rebel's Cause Radio, and I'm here to ask you a question. Are you tired of being marketed a second-rate product at a first-rate price? Or perhaps more importantly, do you want to wear something that shows who you are, which is a Christian, but doesn't look silly or even worse, just theologically incorrect? I want to introduce you to Wrath and Grace Clothing. They're a company that wants to provide you with clothes that you actually like, prices you can afford, and most importantly, they offer a sound, biblical message that represents who you are as a Christian. From the message presented in the graphics to the fit and finish, they have made their company on first-rate designs and high-quality fabrics and inks, and offered at a price you can afford. Wrath and Grace Clothing. Their mission is to proclaim the wrath and the grace of a sovereign God, one shirt at a time. Go to wrathandgrace.com to check out all their designs. That's wrathandgrace.com.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Probably came to visit me more often than anybody.
We are back, 12th day of August in the Lord's year 2013. I'm J. Michael McKoy. Recovery Monday brought to you by Powell CDC. Lila Stafford celebrating her 31st wedding anniversary. You don't look, so you were what, 18 when you got married to Jim?
About 14.
About 14, there you go. Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, watching the chat, and Mike Edens, who's a chemical dependency therapist at Powell, is with us. His other passion is your 3-year-old daughter?
My 3-year-old son, Tristan.
Tristan, okay. And what's he famous for so far?
Well, he's been a little
Being
trooper.
cute.
He's absolutely adorable, but he also had some bladder issues and went through quite a bit. But he's on the other side of that.
Good.
And so he's a trooper. He's had about 6-7 surgeries. And
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry.
But
Yeah. Does that make him
Everything's going great.
stronger? Does that make him weaker? What is it? What does that do?
So far, it doesn't seem to affect him other than he gets a little PTSD the minute we walk even close to a hospital.
Yeah, I'll bet.
He knows, something's going to happen.
I'm going to get poked and prodded. And all right. We're telling Mike's story today. He comes from a home with a father and a biological mother that he was taken from because of her chemical dependency. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Okay. And then raised by another woman who they got divorced when he was 11 or 12 and started using alcohol first.
Alcohol was the first, yes.
Okay. And then pot. And then you said meth and coke.
Yeah, in 7th grade, 13 years old, that's when I started doing meth and cocaine.
Wow.
And pot.
And this is Southern California. What year is this?
Ooh, good question. Let's see.
12 years after you were born.
Yeah, that would be 84,
84. Well, that's about the time coke was on the street and pretty fluent.
Yeah,
But
actually,
meth, it hadn't really hit in... We didn't have meth in Iowa in 84 yet. No.
No, and back then everybody in California called it crystal. I mean, it wasn't even
Right.
called meth or crank or nothing. But actually, it was easier to get all that stuff than alcohol. I mean, when you're 13 years old, to try to get a grown-up to buy you some alcohol was a lot harder than just to go down and get some cocaine.
Yeah, from the
Kinda
neighborhood drug dealer.
Yeah, kind of sad that it was easier to get our hands on all that than it was just booze.
Come from an affluent neighborhood or a poverty-stricken neighborhood, middle class?
I think growing up with 6 kids, we'd be not poverty, but 6 kids is expensive.
Yeah, that's right. It's tough.
Yeah, but my grandparents and my dad, by the time I was 12, 13, we definitely were in middle class, not rich and not poverty by any means.
Yeah, okay. And so, good student. You said A's weren't hard to come by.
That's what made everybody so frustrated in my family is that, getting good grades has always been easy for me when I applied myself. But around this time that I started doing drugs, I mean, I completely went the other way. So I was known for either straight A's or straight F's. There was no middle ground.
So so school started to suffer. Did you change playmates and playgrounds a lot?
No, I pretty much only hung out with what most people would consider the wrong crowd.
Okay.
What was the attraction there? Just that they were fun?
It may sound kind of silly, but at 12, 13, 14 years old, there was kids in school that were known for being star wrestlers. There was a guy I looked up to that was head of the surf team. And there was Geeks, Chess Club, and all that. But then there was us, and that was my identity was, rather it be long hair or mohawk or whatever, but the kid that people go on the other side of the hallway because they don't know what he's going to do. And I like that. It was attention seeking.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do believe that having everybody in class paying attention to me because they weren't sure what I was going to do next became kind of my identity in a bad way.
Sure. Well, most of the identities that we give ourselves aren't very good.
I kept getting expelled from different school districts, and my parents would have to move me to a different school district, and then I get expelled. And so it was nothing. It was nothing to be proud of, but that's really what was going on. That was my identity.
Did you have a mohawk?
I had a mohawk. Let's see, about 9th grade.
Like the real spiky kind?
Yeah, Liberty Spikes.
Oh, God.
I want
Liberty
pictures,
Spikes.
don't you?
Red, white, and blue.
I want pictures. And when you were suspended from school, was it violence or was it just class clown or what was it?
All of the above. I mean, I would get written up and sent to the principal at least once a week, and sometimes I'd never go. They'd send me to the vice principal, but they'd never hear back from me. I actually got expelled. I was just a joke, but a math teacher, I drew a bunch of pictures of violence, cannons, guns, all that, and turned it in as homework. Oh. And, this was before Columbine, but they still took it very seriously because the crazy kid did it.
Yeah.
And so I was expelled for a few months, and we had to go in front of the school board before my dad could get me back into school. They also did a bunch of psychological testing, and their determination was he's just bored. So they started making me walk to the high school and take high school classes.
Yep.
And
you're a genius.
But then I just did the same thing there. It really wasn't that I wasn't challenged in school. It was just that I didn't care at that point.
Why didn't you care? What was missing? You know now what a child like that who's in that situation is hurting from. What was missing in your life then? What did you think it was?
I didn't really feel like anything was missing. I just was, I didn't want to go to school, so I didn't. And I kind of had this attitude that grown-ups couldn't really do much to me, and that included law enforcement. Up until a point, the first time when my dad couldn't get me out, the first time when the judge said, I don't care, he's staying, then I started to realize that, hey, you got yourself in some trouble here. But ideally, teachers, parents, grandparents, everybody, just the idea that I'm going to do what I want, and they couldn't stop me. And not to mention just what drugs was doing to me at the time.
Sure.
I mean, when you've been up several days in a row on meth, you're not exactly thinking clearly or making good decisions. So that was a big part of it, too.
Did you graduate from high school?
At 15 years old, my dad put me in a boys' home in Georgia.
Okay.
And so I graduated from that, which was a Baptist boys' home. But because that school, I was afraid, wouldn't be accredited, I went ahead and got my GED in addition to that. So I have a GED plus a high school diploma from Accelerated Christian Education.
So what was that period in that school, that Baptist school, like? I mean, I would imagine there were no red, white, and blue Mohawks there.
No. I'm not sure how my dad found this place in Georgia. I mean, it was 2,600 miles away from California, where I was from. But I do remember that I've only seen my dad cry 3 times my whole life, and once was when my grandpa Baker died, his grandfather, and the second was when he put me in that boys' home, and he told me he had a court order. And actually, the third time was when I graduated from college. So I've really only seen him, and one of them was when he told me, you're going to this boys' home.
Okay.
I think he was just trying to save my life. I mean, I don't have any resentments towards him. I was really getting in all kinds of trouble. I mean, you guys have only heard little bits and pieces, but at that point, he was so desperate that I got to figure out something or my son's going to die.
Was he still a truck driver, too? So was he around? Was it hard for him to keep track of you?
No. I mean, he did have different jobs where he'd drive to Texas and Arizona. Heck, he even tried to put me in the truck with him so he could keep an eye on me a few times. But he can't watch me 24/7. I mean, but he'd sometimes take me with him in the truck just because he was worried about me.
So did you rebel at this Baptist boys' home?
Not really. I mean, for a little bit, but I got to give that guy a lot of credit. The man who ran the place, his name was Sam Crevette, and we called him Brother Sam. He had 18-20 of the worst teenagers from all over, and he kept us all in line. I mean, but it was a little more capital punishment. I mean, you will get paddled, and he didn't put up with any garbage. And so it was a big adjustment. I think the first week when I showed up and I had combat boots and had the choke chain like Sid Vicious and all that, I mean, he let me do that for about a week. And then it was time to dress like you're in a boys' home.
Wow. Mike Edens is our guest today. We're talking about what led him to finally surrender his life and become somebody whose passion is to work with other addicts and abusers. So you get out of this boys' home, and you told me earlier you went to prison. How old were you when you went to prison?
I went to prison in 1996, so that would make me 24.
So what happened between 18 and 24? You come out of a Baptist boys' home. I mean, I would have thought you were heading for the podium, for the preacher's stall. But something didn't happen that way.
Well, actually, in this boys' home, I really got into weightlifting. And so when I came out of the boys' home, I was very healthy, doing bench press competitions. And my dad and my grandparents were just pleased. I mean, I was really into exercise and joined a gym and so on. But it didn't take long for me to go back to drinking, which eventually would lead me back to meth. And once I was on meth again, it didn't take long for everything to come apart at the seams.
Did they have any 12-step programs at this home, or
No,
you weren't even taught any of that?
No, not at all. It was definitely not connected to treatment in any way.
Yeah.
It wasn't connected to 12-step in any way. We went to church, probably almost every night. It was very much Baptist church and revivals and stuff like that. But no, there really wasn't really anything to treat the chemical dependency, that's for sure.
So what took you to prison?
I got out of that boys' home. I went home, got into trouble, stole a car, got thrown back in juvenile hall, got sent back to the boys' home for another year and a half. When I finally got out of the boys' home, it didn't take me long there in Georgia to get in all kinds of trouble with LSD and selling drugs and stuff like that. And so I went back to California and did good for a little bit, got married and had a son, my oldest son, Justin, who just turned 19. But with drinking every day and eventually going back on meth, and then I started selling meth. That's what I ended up going to prison for. And the first time I got arrested with a large quantity of meth, they actually gave me a break. They gave me a 3-year suspended sentence and 8 months in jail. and 8 months was enough time to, clear up physically. And I got out, did good for a few months, got back to drinking, got back to using meth, and
So you've said that a couple times. The drinking then led to the other drugs.
it did work that way for me. At that time I thought drinking was okay. I didn't see myself as an alcoholic, but meth I knew was causing problems. And so sober, I'd say I just need to stay off that stuff. But drunk, we do all kinds of irrational stuff, like trying to beat up the bouncer or go back and get some meth. And so, yes, every time I did go back on meth after some time off, I was intoxicated when I made that decision.
What kind of father were you to Justin?
Well, not good at all. I mean, I rationalized it as I was doing my family a service by not letting anybody know where I lived. So, when you're selling drugs, you're selling drugs to some shady people, some violent people. And so rather than have anybody know where I lived, I'd just be gone for days at a time. And I kind of justified that as I'm out doing what I got to do, and I go home. But no, I wasn't a good father. I'd be gone for days at a time, or when I was home, crashed out in the back bedroom and get up and then go do it again and disappear for a few days. And then, of course, from 1.5 until 5, I was in prison. So that's not, really taking care of my son.
When you got out of prison, were you reformed, redeemed?
No, I think when I got out of prison, I had decided that I didn't want to use drugs anymore. And so that's how I thought it would be that simple. All my life I like to get high and I keep doing it, but now I don't want to, so I'm done. And I really just thought of addiction as a choice, and I choose not to do it anymore. And so...
and that worked?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I thought, wow.
No, that's exactly...
No reason for us anymore, Lila. He just decided and he was clean.
Yeah. Actually, I got paroled to Iowa from prison, which is hard to do.
Why Iowa?
Well, when I had about a year left to go, because I was in prison about 3 years, I had about 1 year left, and I got a letter from my wife who said, when you get out, you're not coming here. You need to figure out where you're going to go. And so I called my dad, who had moved here in 93, and said, hey, can I start over? That was, so my rationale really was just to get away from all the meth.
So in 1998,
1998,
you come to Iowa.
Yep, to get away from the meth.
That's where, to get away from meth.
Yeah.
Oh boy, another great choice.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll continue with Mike's story, and eventually we'll get to that point of redemption. And now his passion to work with former addicts. Not former addicts and alcoholics, and help them to get clean. This is Recovery Monday, brought to you by the good folks at Powell CDC. If you need those services of recovery, please talk to the folks at Powell CDC, because they can save your life. We're coming back.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now, and then leave, and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Day of August. We're back. Mike Edens is our guest here on Recovery Monday, brought to you by Powells CDC. Lila Stafford in the house. Bob Monster at the Cat in the Hat watching the chat. And, of course, Father Tattoo with a plethora of tattoos covering his entire body is producing our show today. And that's why we call him Father Tattoo, because he's in seminary.
It's my arms.
And he's covered in tattoos.
It's just my arms.
He used to have, like, naked things on his forehead and on his necks, and he's had all those removed.
But, never happened.
Oh, it's just terrible.
Never happened.
They can't hear you, so it doesn't matter.
It's all right, but the radio people can hear me.
All right, 1998, you get out of prison. Your wife says, don't come here. You come to Iowa because you want to get away from meth. That's funny.
It is.
You got to admit, that's funny.
It is.
I'm going to join the circus so I can get away from crazy people. So you come to Iowa, and you're right back at it again.
Well, I got out of Chino, and my dad brought me here to Iowa, and I had to meet with the parole officer names. He's still there, Jim Cameron, on a Monday morning. And one of the first things he said to me is, how have you never been to treatment? You know, obviously I can see your rap sheet and you've got drugs and alcohol related stuff all the way back to 12 or 13. And how have you never been to treatment? And so he asked me to go get a substance abuse evaluation at treatment in Ames, and it took about 6 weeks. And the counselor at this treatment center also said the same thing. You know, how have you not been to treatment before? And she wanted to put me in treatment, and I didn't see any point in it. I really just thought I've decided not to do drugs anymore, and I'm not going to, and treatment's kind of a waste. Mm-hmm. That was in August of 98. I drank on New Year's.
First time?
Yeah, so about 3 years in prison, a little over 3 years, no drugs or alcohol, and then been out since July and made it till New Year's Eve, and I drank. Wasn't the end of the world. About a week later, though, I drank a whole lot more. And about 8 months later, I think it was, under the influence of alcohol, about 2 or 3 in the morning, when you're not as hungover as you're going to be, you're not as drunk as you were, out came the meth, and that seemed like a good idea. And I pretty much made it about 8 weeks this last time on meth before I picked up 9 felonies here in Iowa for manufacturing and all that. And so that's my sobriety birthday, was the date of that arrest.
Which is what?
10/16/2000.
Okay,
How
October.
about your father? What was he? How did he cope with this time after time?
My dad tried everything he could do. I mean, he had me living with a friend of his for a while and living with my mother because he thought maybe I just wanted to be with my brothers and sisters, to boys' homes, to you name it. He tried everything he could think of.
But it sounds like he never really gave up.
Oh, no, he never did. He's always been there and did everything he could think of to try to help me. But one of the conversations that I had with that counselor when I first got out of prison is, you know, I told her I'm done using, and she says, well, you haven't been done up until now. What makes you think you're going to be sober now? And I said, because I want to. I don't want to use anymore. And she said, it doesn't work that way. You're going to be using again soon. And I said, how can you say that? You don't even know me. And she says, I know you. She tried to put me in treatment. I don't know how I got out of it. Usually if your parole officer makes you go get an eval and they say you could benefit from treatment, you're going.
Yeah.
But I just said, that lady's crazy. I haven't used in 3.5 years. And she says, I'm going to use again. And my parole officer basically said, as long as you don't test dirty, you don't have to go. But
she was right.
Well, Yeah, it's a long story, but I'll give you the mini version. Is I was trying to convince her why I don't need to go to treatment, and one of them was that I've lost everything I ever cared about because of drugs and alcohol. I lost my wife, I lost my son, I lost my freedom, I lost my license, and I was just going on. And she says, Mike, you will use again real soon. And I used this analogy with this counselor. I said, you know, when you're walking down the street and you see maybe a dog turd, are you ever tempted to eat it? And this counselor said, no. And I said, why not? She said, because that's disgusting. And I said, yeah, and drugs and alcohol are about as appealing to me at this point after losing everything I've lost as eating dog crap off the sidewalk. That's how I know I won't use it anymore. I don't want to. It's disgusting. After I was arrested here in Iowa for manufacturing, I took a plea agreement for 16 years, and I probably should have went, actually, but a parole officer who wrote the pre-sentence investigation said, we don't understand how this guy's never been to treatment. He's been in prison for drugs. He's been in boys' homes for drugs. He's, you know, how does this guy never been to treatment? So she recommended that I get a year in county in Story and 15 years suspended sentence and go to a halfway house here in the Des Moines area. It's called Fort Des Moines Correctional Halfway House.
Sure.
Up in Ames, it's called Kurt Forbes. And so the idea was to give me a year in county so I could be as sober brain chemistry-wise as needed and go to a halfway house for 6 months where I could be watched. If I'm going to mess up, they'll catch me. Suspend the 15 years, but put me in treatment. And it was halfway during treatment when my counselor went on vacation, and this substitute counselor came in, and she sat down and was kind of looking around the group room at everybody, and she looked at me, and she just smiled. She says, oh, you must have ate dog crap. She remembered the analogy that I had used years earlier to try to convince her that I wasn't going to use anymore.
Wow.
And I'm pretty grateful that I had her the last 5 weeks of treatment, because I don't think I would have figured out what it takes to stay sober, what it takes to sustain sobriety long term. I mean, short-term sobriety, I've been doing that my whole life.
Yeah.
A few months, few years.
Yeah.
That's not the trick. It's trying to sustain sobriety over a longer period of time. And if it hadn't been for the stuff she taught me in treatment.
And what did she teach you? What did she teach you in treatment?
Yeah, there's all kinds of things. I know we argued a lot. She told me, you know, Mike, are you a good father? And I said, yeah, I'm a pretty good father. And she said, no, you're not. You're a horrible father. So there was a lot of chipping away at dishonesty, because the truth is that when I'm sober, I'm a pretty good father. But when I'm on meth, I'm a horrible father.
Sure.
And so that's what she was trying to get me to see. I told her everybody does meth. And she said, no, only a small fraction of our society has even tried it. But see, we were both right, because only a small fraction of our society has tried it, but everybody I knew did. And so it just seemed to me like everybody used meth.
You tracked what you were.
Well, and what I've always heard about meth, and I have never tried that drug. In fact, years ago on the radio, I thought I would do meth under hospitalization just so I could come back on the radio and talk about it. And you would be amazed at the outreach of people that came to me and said, no.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah, and it wasn't the Jesus freaks that were telling me no. It was the meth heads.
Yeah.
Matt, one time, and you're done. And I thought, I can beat that. And I never did.
Yeah. The thing that she probably taught me the most, and actually I try to carry this message on to the people that I work for, is she said, Mike, if you want to stay sober, it's simple. She said, now don't mistake the word simple with easy, because I'm not telling you this is going to be easy, but it is very simple. You just have to change everything. Everything. And that stuck with me, that, you know, if I used to hang out with people who drink and use drugs, now I hang out with recovering people. That's the opposite. If I used to be preoccupied with getting, using, recovering, I need to be preoccupied with staying sober. If I used to spend, you know, time at the bar, now I'm at meetings. Even part of me going back to school and working in the field that I work in now was kind of part of that equation too. That prior to that, I was working as an electrician, and it's not that I couldn't have stayed an electrician and stayed sober. I know some electricians been sober a long time, but I came out of treatment. It's all going to be different. That's the only way I'm going to actually be able to stay sober, is if nothing looks the same as it used to look.
Right.
And so that's probably the biggest thing that she taught me is, Mike, you just need to change your whole life.
Was there a microwave moment in your recovery, or was it just a crock pot? Was it just slow, went into treatment, went into halfway house, stayed clean?
I think one of those moments was when the judge in Iowa said, I'm not sending you to prison, again, that you deserve to go. With your rap sheet, I don't usually give people breaks like this, but he agreed with the probation officer that wrote the report that how have you never been to treatment? And so after that, felt like, hey, I've gotten a break. Don't get me wrong. Everything that I've ever done, I deserved to get caught. I mean, it's not like I was ever imprisoned unfairly.
Right.
However, I don't really remember the judicial system saying, we really should send you, but we're not going to.
So treatment saved your life.
Yeah. The break they gave me, I didn't take lightly.
All right. When we come back, you've heard what Mike's life was like. You heard what happened. Now, what's his life like now? As a father, as a husband, as a counselor, as a savior to those who have come before him and after him in the midst of a terrible drug and alcohol abuse. It's Recovery Monday, brought to you by Powell CDC. I'm J. Michael McKoy, if I haven't told you lately. Thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Coming back. Okay.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Like right now. Name it.
Did you feel anything?
Yeah.
You did?
Some pain. No pain at all. I was dealing with some back issues due to the depression that I'm in, and right now they're gone.
I have a sickness called Graves' disease, but
Well, hi. My name is Mike Ahmed, and I host the show Bridge the Gap Ministry. Our vision is to bridge the gap between cultures, and what we use the Word of God, and because His riches in that Word and the wisdom is what brings us together. So we learn the Word, we speak the Word, and we practice the Word on this show every Thursday. Don't miss it. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach.
25% of those come live. The other 75% come on podcasts. Okay, we're back, and we are live here doing a podcast and webcast1live.com with Mike Edens. This is Recovery Monday, brought to you by Powell CDC. So, Mike, you get out of treatment, and it's fair to say treatment saved your life. And when did you decide that you were going to commit the rest of your life to helping other people? Was it right after that?
I think it was while in treatment, I decided I want to go back to school. Because like I said, I just had this idea of everything needs to be changed. So I'm going to change everything. But I've always been really good in math and science, so I was thinking like accounting or something. And but when I started looking at different programs, I found human services and chemical dependency counselor training program, and I just thought, well, that kind of makes sense. I've been in training for that for quite some time.
Right. You got a doctorate in that, baby.
That's kind of what I thought. That it's also an opportunity to take every single thing that I've done as a mistake. And a lot of people got hurt along the way. Grandparents, my son, family. But if something good could come of that, so it just made sense. I don't think I decided I wanted to be a counselor in treatment, but it was shortly after that I thought
decided
this makes
to do
sense.
That.
Yeah.
Now, you have a wonderful son, Tristan, who's 3, and your wife, where did you meet her?
I met her at Powell.
As a patient or as a...
No, she was the unit secretary.
Okay.
I was a counselor there. That's where I met her.
All right. And so you two, do you share a 12-step program then?
No, Tristan's mother and I are separated, but she's not a recovering person.
Okay.
We just met at Powell.
Okay. And now I can ask and you can answer, are you a good father?
Yes.
Good.
I really believe I am. Not perfect, but
Sure.
But a good dad.
It's progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
He adores this son.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his life.
Good. And so what do you find different as a counselor in the addicts and alcoholics out there in 2013 than you had in your life in 2000? I mean, 13 years ago, that's half a generation.
Mm-hmm.
What's different today than then?
Well, it's actually kind of heartbreaking because when I first started working at Powell, meth was the number 2 admission. I mean, alcohol has always been the number 1 admission and probably always will be, but the number 2 admission to Powell was meth. Now meth has dropped a few notches. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of meth addiction going on, but it's like almost every other admission is opiates, and it's 18 to 25 crowd, and a lot of these younger people, it's kind of hard to overdose on meth. You know, you could do a shovelful and probably not overdose. But with opiates, what these people are doing, the difference between being high and, I've used too much and my respiration is so shallow that I die, is not that far apart. And we keep losing people in their early 20s. And so that's probably what's changed most is all the prescription drugs and the, I don't know, I think in 2005 you wouldn't have found heroin in Ames or Des Moines, but there's plenty of it now. And so that's probably the biggest difference.
And what people need to understand is heroin, do not get stuck on this stereotype that heroin comes out of a piece of cotton that you've warmed up with a lighter and a needle. It comes in a pill made by a pharmaceutical company.
Well, the heroin around here is probably more the black tar from Mexico type stuff.
Okay.
But most of these people that they don't get started on heroin, they get started on Vicodin or oxycodone or Dilaudid. But at some point that becomes unsustainable. I mean, it's too expensive if you're paying $10, $20, $30 a pill and your tolerance is going up. At some point, heroin just becomes a cheaper. For a lot of people, they don't start out on heroin,
No,
but
they
when
end up on
when
it,
they
don't
can't
they?
get enough Dilaudid or enough oxycodone to sustain, and they find out that for $50 they can get enough heroin, so that's why there's more heroin.
How much do you see of the, and I know there's a lot of names for it, but it's called synthetic marijuana, the stuff that you can still legally buy from these different smoke shops around the country. Do you see a lot of people hooked on that?
It seems like a lot of these 18 to 25 that I'm talking about, they've also done, some of the synthetic marijuana or synthetic cannabinoids and also the bath salts and all that. I specifically had one recently that was her main thing was the synthetic cannabinoids, and that made it even more difficult because she wanted to know what these things will do to you, and quite honestly, nobody really knows yet.
Yeah,
I mean, especially as soon as the legislators make one illegal and a new one comes out that's not yet illegal, and the family wants to know what's this going to do to my daughter or son, and it's not like we're not trained, but they're just so new and they keep changing chemical compounds every few months, and so there's really no idea what it'll do.
And they don't even know what's in it. Some of the kids that are taking it don't know.
Yeah.
What's the biggest misnomer? I want you to say something to mom and dad or grandma and grandpa, probably more like grandma and grandpa. What's the one thing, if you could educate them on, you would do so?
Wow, that's more of a question for the family side, which I don't do at Powell. However, so many of the family members do look for how they caused this, which they didn't.
They didn't, that's right.
How they can cure it, which they can't. Or how they can control it. And I think our family counselors call it the 3 C's, but it seems like every mom and dad, every grandma and grandpa, and even husbands and wives, they get stuck on that. How can I control my loved one and make sure they don't use it anymore, which they're in for a long day every day if they try that.
Yeah.
They're often looking for what they did to cause this or how they can fix it. And really, they can't fix it. Their loved one and a place like Powell or a treatment center and a good family program that can help initiate it, but really they can't do it for them. Like my dad couldn't make me do what I needed to do to stay sober.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being vital and 1 being non-essential or not important, how important is it that family members are involved in this process of getting clean and sober?
I think it's vital, really. A lot of treatment centers don't have a family program because you can't really bill Blue Cross or an insurance agency for meeting with somebody's spouse. And so I know a lot of treatment centers don't really have a lot in family program. We're very fortunate to be hospital-based and have 2 full-time family counselors. I think just the alcoholic or addict's chances of staying sober go down. I don't have a number, but if they don't have a family member that understands it, if they're living with people who say, this is your 3rd OWI, alcohol is causing problems, just stop. Because that's how a lot of family members are. Just don't do it anymore.
Right.
And if they can come into a family program and kind of grow alongside the alcoholic or addict, it's crucial. I think it's very important.
You have to be speaking the same language. It just makes you feel like they care if you're speaking the same language.
But how many times have we seen spouses just walk away and say, you're not an alcoholic, you just drink too much, or you don't have a mental disorder, you just don't have your life
That
together.
usually saying something about that person. It's frightening. They may have to look at themselves. Many times a spouse doesn't want to look at their own drinking, or a parent doesn't want to look at their own drinking, so it's easier to say, nothing's wrong with them, just buckle down.
Yeah, that's tough. Mike, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being here. You did a good job.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And God bless you for what you do, and you're saving lives. And I hope you know that. I hope you see it. Sometimes when we're in the middle of the barrel, we just can't see the fish that jump out. But you're doing some wonderful things, so I appreciate you doing that.
Absolutely.
Lila, thanks for being here. We'll see you next Monday. Mr. Montserrat, we'll see you Friday.
Yeah.
And Father Ted, too, thanks for being here. I'm J. Michael McKoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. We'll see you tomorrow right here at 3 o'clock with Craig Robinson from the Iowa Republican on The Whole Thing with Ken Sorensen. The Scoop and the Truth. Tomorrow live on The View from a Pew on KTIA, powered by webcast1live.com.